Welcome. I'm Tina Falk of Via School of Feng Shui, where I guide the next generation of Feng Shui practitioners to create meaningful, transformative work in the world. And today I'm really excited to introduce you to one of my grads. I call my grads the Via professionals or the Via pros. She has taken this wisdom and made it her own. And you're going to hear about her unique approach to Feng Shui, how she works with clients, and maybe even get a few practical tips you can start using right away. So let's get inspired and dive in and meet Paige Ishii. How are you, Paige?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Tina. Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome. I'm super excited to have this kind of conversation with you, like professional to professional, right? It's this is really like such a blessing to me, in something that I just love so much because you've really put in the time. You really put in the work to get to this point. And I know you've been doing work even far before you came into my world. So let's start off with just some basics. I'd love to know how you define or describe feng shui, and what does it mean to you personally and professionally?
I think that's a great place to start. First of all, we all know the literal translation of feng shui is wind water. And for me, that just resonates so much. I was just thinking of the statement this morning that you're not a tree. So if you don't like where you're at, then move. Because a lot
Mm,
of us get stuck of where we're at. And so my interpretation of feng shui, it's moving energy. It's creating a harmonious atmosphere by moving negative energy and creating a space where positive energy wants to stay. So, from a personal perspective, I can tell when my home needs my attention, and if something feels a little off, all I have to do is move some things around, and eventually it starts to feel a little bit more in balance. And so, um, that's kind of how I like to practice my feng shui within my environment. And from a professional perspective, I know that if I'm more productive if my desk is cleared off, and that if I'm using my mingua, and I'm in my command position or in one of my best positions.
mm.
So I always try to ensure that I face one of my better positions, and then I put my desk in the command position to give myself the most optimal chance of having positive energy flow more smoothly for me and to bring abundance to my work,
Mhm.
my practice, how I get through life.
I think what you're saying is so important that, we really have to apply feng shui to our own lives, to our
Right.
own homes, to really get in and understand the energy, like you said, and understand what works so that when we're assisting clients in their homes or businesses, right, we're right there with them. We get it.
Right.
So, how do you use feng shui in your work? Like, how does it show up in your services or even a client session? What does the process look like working with you?
So if you work with me, the first thing I like to do is I like to understand you. So I always ask you to set an intention, whether you let me know what
Mm,
that intention is or not.
I love that.
Um, I like you to set an intention for the reading, and then I ask usually a series of questions so that I can help you understand your four pillar chart, or your environment. So when I'm doing a home or a business consultation, I want my clients to know that I only have their best, highest good in mind. So I keep that as a source of truth for when I'm doing your consultation. So even if I have to deliver some bad news or news that you don't want to hear, I try to do it in the most gentle way possible, with gentle recommendations on how might be able to fix that or
Mhm.
adjust something within your life. And I like to apply that through the lens of love. I feel like, I'm doing this to make your life better and to help balance the energies for you. And so I try and give that perspective as I'm delivering the information to you.
Mm, that's beautiful. Now, are you working do you work in person with people and or remotely?
So I do it remote. I've been doing it remotely. I know, being in person, it depends on people's schedules. If I can get them, if we can work out schedules, then I'll do it in person. but I'm a projector, and so I'm extremely empathic. So just depending on who it is, I've worked out a system for myself that seems to work really well. I will meet with people in person, um, and then I have a beginner rate, and so if it's too much bother, then I'll do the recording, keeping all those things in mind, and give it to
Mm,
them, and then I'll give them their full PDF. I'm trying to um, reduce the amount of paperwork, or so. Like right now my PDF's about 8 pages long, and I'm trying to get it down to about 6. But
mhm,
I give them that. I give them the full length video, about an hour long video that I prepare for them, as well
mhm,
as mentioning the intentions that they set within the consultation. And I always close with a card reading, and I like to use the cards that I like to use are by Kyla Gray, and they're Raise Your Vibration. It has to do with your
mm,
chakras. And so then a lot of times we'll find that the card reading goes hand in hand with the feng shui reading, right? It'll say, oh, you are low in this element. And so it'll show up in the card reading, right? So their
mm.
card reading, if they're low in water, they'll have blue show up as or that element that coincides with that chakra. I find that really interesting, but I think it's a nice way to close the reading. I
Mhm.
probably just went off on a tangent, but anyways.
Well, I love that you're bringing in all these different things to just kind of it feels really well rounded. And I love you mentioned Chinese astrology, and I would love for you to speak a little bit to that. Because I think a lot of people listening may not realize that that's an important tool for you. How important is looking at somebody's Chinese natal chart to you?
I think knowing your Chinese natal chart reading is of it's imperative to making sure that we balance the energies in your home, because if we don't know what's present already within your own personal system, then how are we going to be able to make sure that the energy in your home is balanced? Because everything has energy. You have energy, your home has energy, and the people you share your space with has energy. So I like to start with the 4 pillar Chinese feng shui reading, or Chinese astrology reading, which the 4 elements, or the body, mind, year, hour, day, and the month. And I like to wrap those all together in a full reading, because then I can take a look at who you are and how you navigate through life, and I can help your home be more harmonious for you. So I feel like starting with a 4 pillar feng shui reading is imperative to getting it right and helping you balance your space.
That way, right, the feng shui recommendations you're making are very specific then.
Right. They're
Yeah.
very specific for the individual. And it's also very important to take into consideration the other people who are living in your home, because if we are going to look at you, maybe those recommendations are perfect for you. But if we don't take into consideration the other people within your home, then we're not going to be able to. They may feel uncomfortable with the recommendations that we make. So we want to make sure that it's harmonious for everybody in that space.
Beautiful. That was well articulated. Thank you for that. I'm sure you've had in this business, it's so rewarding. I know, and you feel it too, to be able to help people. And sometimes it's at a really deep personal level. Have you experienced any aha moments or any success stories or powerful shifts for clients? Um,
Yeah, I wanted to share a really good story with you.
oh,
So
good.
I recently did a reading for a friend of mine, and she had basically, so she has a spiritual practice, and she basically had given up on her spiritual practice. She was very disheartened, and she was like, "That's it, I'm done. I'm just done." And she had shut down all of her social media, and she wasn't doing anything. And so after I looked at her chart, I realized that she had gone through a couple of years of transformation with the animals that were presented in her chart. She had an ox, and we all know we've just gone through an ox year within the last couple of years. Um, and so after when I did her reading, I looked at that and I was like, oh, well, no wonder you're having such a hard time. You have these animals presenting and they've gone through the ringer in the last few years. So, with that dragon year and the ox, of course she had a hard time. There was breakup energy with those two things. So I told her that and I says, you just need to, get back into your spiritual practice. Just take it a little bit at a time. Don't dive in without, full force, but just take it one step at a time. Do what feels comfortable for you. Um, and that was my recommendation to her. And I showed her um, how she was meant to lead and how her pillar animals work together. And when it would be a good time for her to launch a class or a program, and she shifted her whole demeanor, and she sent me an email saying, oh, I'm just reading through this and I'm listening, and it's really resonating with me. And then a few months later, I saw her launch a class. It was a small class. She wasn't, she used to do huge conferences, um, which I think would have been overwhelming for her to just dive right back into them. So she did just start with a small class with a few individuals in it, but she was able to get her business back up and running from the information that I shared with her. So, what shifted was her understanding of what she had been struggling with and how this information that I shared would be useful for her business, um, and what shifted for her, so
Wow. Wow. What a gift.
yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah.
so what I'm hearing from you though is you do not just the chart readings with a feng shui consultation, but do you do chart readings on their own?
Yeah, yeah. So, because I'm just starting out in my business, I did just the Chinese astrology reading for her because I need, first of all, I need the practice. I need to be able to do this constantly. So I find individuals where I can, or from recommendations. And she was a friend, and I said, sure, let's just do your. She didn't. I mean, people sometimes are hesitant to dive into feng shui or Chinese astrology, but I mean, we can see, you and I know how beneficial this is to people and their way of life, and balancing their energy, and healing things that need to be healed. But sometimes people are hesitant to jump in. And so I would recommend starting with the Chinese astrology reading. And then if
Yeah.
that resonates, then taking it a little bit further, getting your home evaluated, getting your landform evaluated, just making little tweaks here and there. And that was what I was going to say. Is one of the comments I was going to make is, you don't have to boil the ocean. You can start where you're at. So if you only can do a reading to start, do that first step. Get your 4 pillar chart reading done,
Yeah.
and then you can build onto that. But if you don't do your 4 pillar chart reading, then it's going to be harder for somebody to determine what's the best recommendations for your space.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. Speaking of making recommendations, most feng shui practitioners kind of have their go-to. Like if somebody called you out on the spot and say, "Hey, how can I shift the energy in my space?" What's yours?
So I always tell people, I know people want the magic pill or the cure right away to lift that energy. So if they have a lot of, so if I'm able to look at their chart, then I always, and they don't have a lot of earth in their chart, I'll tell them to go and ground, make sure that they're grounded. And then I try and look at where they may need additional support to help them move from to a more balanced way of being. So sometimes um, one thing that I do, one of my practices, is trying to be present and to be grateful every day. If you start with an attitude of gratitude, that will resonate, and it'll, you just have to find 3 simple things that you're grateful for. And I try and start my morning with that. If I and I Seems to me that I always fall back on attitude of gratitude, be thankful for what you have, and then you can just build upon that, and that positive energy. Just write 3 things down, every single day, and eventually you're going to shift some energy.
That's a great tip. That's a really, I like that. And it's so doable. Like you don't have to pay any money for it. You can just do it. So how can people reach you? What's the best way for somebody to reach out to you and say, "Hey, what is this reading all about?" Or "I'm moving," or "I am struggling in business or health," or whatever. How can you help me?
Well, first, I'd like them to join my Facebook group, which is Fun with Feng Shui. And I've actually created an acronym for fun, and that is flow, unity, and nature. It's using the five elements of feng shui to create balance within your life. And I have a little thing written down that I had Chat GPT help me with. And it's in feng shui, cultivating a harmonious environment hinges on three core principles: flow, ensuring the unimpeding movement of qi to energize and revitalize; unity, creating a balanced and cohesive space that fosters a sense of belonging; and nature, integrating in natural elements to connect with the earth's vital energy, thereby promoting well-being and prosperity. And I think starting from one of those, happiness is really important to me. It's one of my core values, is to be happy and to bring happiness to others. So fun with feng shui just made sense to me, and it's really gonna, so Facebook, you know, and then my email address is ishigirl@yahoo.com, and you can always reach out to me, schedule a consultation, and or a discovery call to see if it's a good fit, and then we can kind of go from there.
Wow, that's wonderful. Um, do you have any final words of wisdom, something you'd like to share with the viewers who are maybe curious or maybe even a little bit cautious or just like new to feng shui?
Yeah. So if you're new to feng shui, in my Facebook group, and you know this, Tina, because you're in there, but I don't I don't do like huge webinars or anything. I usually come on and speak for a couple of minutes and say, here's one small tip that you can do today. The first of every month, I encourage people to do a cinnamon blessing to bring in the abundance into your space. And so, like I said, just do one small thing every day. I like the concept of moving energy um, one small item at a time, right? We don't have
Mm,
to boil the ocean. We don't have to expect changes right away. But you will see changes over time if you just do one small thing for yourself every day. It's kind of like the book Atomic Habits, if you've ever read that. In
mhm.
Atomic Habits, they talk about creating small habits. The small habits become big habits. And so that's what I would suggest to people if they're a little hesitant to dive into feng shui, or maybe they're curious, but they need some guidance. And so you and I are both here to give guidance, and when you're ready, contact us, give us a call, and let us know how we can help you.
Yeah,
um, because if you do nothing, then nothing's going to happen. Like I said, you are not a tree. You can move. You can move the energy. If you're stuck where you're at, then pick up your feet and move. And by practicing feng shui, you can move one tiny element, one small thing, and you'll start to see the energy change. Just go pick up your front room or your living room. Just do one room. Don't
yeah,
don't do the whole house. Don't spend the whole day. Just spend 15 minutes, set a timer, and go for it.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I've always admired that about you is kind of your gentle approach at with your clients, with your Facebook group, with your message. It's not overwhelming. It's not like, oh, you have to do this. It's just you're so approachable and you have such a big heart, Paige. I'm so glad that you're in my circle and I'm so appreciative of your time here. And if you're listening and if anything here has sparked your curiosity or maybe it's resonated with what you're going through, don't hesitate to reach out to Paige. I'm going to put all of her information down below. And if you're interested in learning feng shui for yourself or even becoming certified as a practitioner, come explore what Via Feng Shui has to offer because I have room for you here. So until next time, stay aligned, stay curious, and trust the energy. Thanks, Paige. It's been great.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.